Welcome to another edition of Crime Time with DutyRon and Ed Wallace. But tonight we do not have Ed Wallace. We have Lisa Lockwood. She's chiming in here with us, and she's going to be hanging out with us for the next hour. I want to just say a special thank you to the Patreon supporters, the channel members, and all of the folks who positively engage in this community. You guys are what makes it a great place, and we give thanks and praise to each and every one of you. And tonight we are going to be talking about a very sensitive topic. It involves little baby Thomas Valva. We fondly refer to him as Tommy. He was murdered by his father on January 17th of 2020, right before COVID-19 struck our nation and struck the world, but it came to the United States just a few short months after this tragic murder happened. And I want to talk tonight with Lisa Lockwood. She's here. She's joining us live, and I appreciate her being here. She is a crime analyst. She talks about all things true crime related on Law and Crime Network and various other networks all over the internet. And Lisa, I thank you for taking out the time and hanging out with us tonight. Crime Network and various other networks.
Just on one technical note, I'm hearing you
and
twice.
Lisa, I thank you for taking out the time. And
so I just want to do a quick check on my end and make sure. Just on one
Yeah, I don't know why there's that echo. So I'm gonna remove you, and then you can come on back in. So let's do that. I'm gonna remove Lisa. She'll have her come on back in. I think it's got to do with something with the audio. Again, I'm hoping that's not an issue that we're going to deal with here tonight. But this case is shocking. It's shocking because the father of Thomas Valva was a New York City police officer, and that's what makes this equally painful. Is that not only are these people monsters, right? The father and step monster, his fiance, Angela Polina, but he was a New York City police officer, and that compounds this thing tenfold, because this is someone who's swore to take an oath to protect and serve. And what does he do? He takes his son and throws him in the garage with 19-degree temperatures on a January freezing night and leaves him there to die of hypothermia. And again, if you suffer for any type of PTSD or any type of, any type of situation where this might trouble you, I would ask you. This is my disclaimer to you all. Just take a moment, think about it. It's going to be some sensitive stuff that we're going to be speaking about. So I want to play just a small little piece. Let me just get Lisa in and make sure that she's good and that the echoing is gone. I'm going to just check all the mic settings real quick. Edit mics. Okay, it's good. She should be good. Lisa, how are we doing? Did we correct that?
Good. I think it was good on my end. I think I had you on Safari and Chrome.
Right. So it was just double. Right. Double audio, no big deal. I'm glad that you fixed it. You shut it down and you're back. Lisa, this is a case that is just horrific. And I know I laid this on you just today. We were going to talk about Harmony Montgomery, but this is day 2 of the trial for Michael Valva, little Thomas Valva's dad. And, there's no, in my eyes, there's no defense for harming a small child, your own flesh and blood. I know that you have a lot to say about this, but Lisa, I mean, as a woman, we're parents, right? I don't know. Do you have children, Lisa?
I have stepchildren.
Okay, so you're a mom. Yeah. So your mom. This is so horrific. Any thoughts on this case? Looking at it from the get-go here.
I've got so many thoughts about this. Like, how did it happen? What were the failures? Why were certain things overlooked? Why 17 reports to Child Protective Services and still have a result like this. And this is happening across the country. It's not just isolated to this specific area, but we keep hearing about the failures of protecting our kids and why the visits stop, or if they show up to a house and they knock on the door and they go away and say, oh, no one answered, and then they don't visit again for another month or so. And there's plenty of reasoning coming from Child Protective Services, and lack of people, lack of funding, not trained. The list goes on, but it can't happen. It just can't happen. We cannot keep having incidents like this, DutyRon.
Yeah, it is horrific. And, you know, I have written down 33 calls to CPS. All of them were unfounded. Police called out to the home, not only from Nassau County, where they resided before they were divorced, but into Suffolk County, and nothing was done. You know, every system that's in place to protect the vulnerable, our children, elderly, and anybody for that matter, failed in this case, and it failed across the board, all the way up to the court system. I'm going to play a small clip for everybody that's just joining that might not know about this. This is a 26-minute clip, but I'm not going to play it all. I want some of the folks that might not be following this case too closely to get a good idea of you know what's going on in this case, and this gives you a great overview of it. So I'm going to share the screen with you all, and hopefully we don't have any issues with audio. But I know that I know you took care of it, Lisa. So we're going to let this rock. Here we go. This is starting from the arrest of Thomas Valva's father.
Both charged with Suffolk County Police say they've arrested a Center Moriches man and his fiance, both charged with murder in connection with the death of that man's 8-year-old son. Police have identified the little boy as Thomas Valva. It was a week ago when police say they responded to a report of a boy who'd fallen in a Center Moriches driveway. That boy, we know again to be Thomas Valva now, had been taken to a local hospital where police say he was pronounced dead.
Thomas Valva was subjected to freezing temperatures in the home's unheated garage overnight when the outside temperature was 19 degrees. We first responded to 11 Bittersweet Lane in Center Moriches on January the 17th at 9:40 a.m. after Michael Valva reported that his son Thomas fell in the driveway while waiting for the school bus an hour earlier. Michael indicated that his son lost consciousness after the fall, but had remained unconscious. When the officers arrived, Michael Valva was performing CPR on his son in the basement. Thomas was transported to Long Island Community Hospital, where he was pronounced dead. At the time of his arrival at the hospital, Thomas's body temperature was 76 degrees. We have determined Thomas was never in the driveway that morning, and he suffered head and facial injuries that were not consistent with the father's account.
Police have identified the defendants in this case as Michael Valva, the father of Thomas Valva, and Michael Valva's fiance, Angela Polina. We will have much more as this story develops on Newsday.com. Reporting from Suffolk County Police Headquarters in Yaphank, Cecilia Dowd for Newsday. Suffolk County is launching a probe into the Department of Social Services handling of the case of 8-year-old Thomas Valva, who died on January 17th. A press release from County Executive Steve Ballone's office calls it a top-to-bottom review. Word of the investigation comes on the same day that Thomas's father, Michael Valva, and his fiancée, Angela Polina, were arraigned in family court on 6 petitions of severe child abuse relating to Valva's 3 boys, including Thomas, and Polina's 3 girls. All 6 kids lived in the couple's Center Moriches home. Valva, an NYPD officer, and Polina are facing murder charges in connection with Thomas's death, determined to be a result of hypothermia. They're accused of leaving Thomas and his brother, both on the autism spectrum, in an unheated garage, shivering on the floor with no mattress, no pillows, no blankets. On Friday, Valva and Polina pleaded not guilty to second-degree murder, and on Monday, the defendants denied the abuse allegations in the family court case. The Valva children were returned to their mother, Justina Zupko Valva, last week. She hadn't seen them in 2 years.
This is the mother that's going to be talking here now, and this happened in Suffolk County, Long Island.
The first breakfast was just heartbreaking because I saw my kids eating breakfast so fast. Anthony must have like 2 giant bowls of cereal. He kept asking, when is dinner? When is lunchtime? Just completely being afraid that this is the only meal he's gonna get for the day.
On Monday night, the two biological fathers of Polina's 3 daughters, who went several years without seeing them, were granted temporary custody of the girls. Gino Cali spoke to reporters outside the courthouse before learning he'd be going home with his daughter.
I've always wanted to be in my daughter's life. There's not been one day I haven't wanted to be in my daughter's life.
And Angela prevented that?
Always.
Meanwhile, the Suffolk
I just want you guys to know I had a little text conversation with Gino Cali today. I can't really disclose what we spoke about, but I just wanted to tell you I spoke with him on Facebook Messenger. He's a great father. He has his daughter. He loves her, and this was a heartbreaking thing for him. He had his child ripped away from him by this monster, Angela Polino, with false allegations against him as well. This is the Suffolk County direct executive. He's like the mayor. He runs the county of Suffolk. I want to just set this up because he proposes here that they're going to do a top to bottom investigation of all Suffolk County police, Suffolk County Child Protective Services. And to this day, almost 2.5 years later, there has been no such report.
County executive also says an external task force will be established to review all CPS policies and procedures relating to children with autism and other developmental disabilities. Both Valva and Polina are expected to be in criminal court later this week. Reporting from Family Court in Central Islip, Cecilia Dowd for Newsday.
Tonight, we gather as a parish community, a church community, but also as a local community. We come to pray for Thomas Valva. We come to pray for his family and really for this community, which is so overwhelmed with grief and sadness and a whole range of emotions. And so we come tonight to pray with the church as we gather tonight, hoping that we could find some peace in the midst of what seems so lacking in peace, so lacking in comfort. And we hope that light of faith that brings so many people here today will kind of give.
So that was a prayer vigil for Thomas. You know, I wanted to play that, Lisa, because a lot of people don't know about this case and what happens with these cases. And this is 2.5 years ago. The press and the media speaks about it. And then when things like COVID happens and many other cases start coming in, as you know, they just kind of not get, spoken about. They get swept under the rug. And that's what happened here in this case. There's a lot of people who don't know about it. And that's why I chose to cover this during day 2. I went live yesterday about day 1 with the trial, and we'll have Joe Murray that will come on with us. But, you know how that goes. The news goes on.
Yes, everything. It gets caught up in a new news cycle. So then it's kind of flushed away. The trial's recent now, and I think we're probably going to get more media attention surrounding it. I realize it is day 2, but I think now it's going to be setting the precedent, and people are going to say, oh, I remember that case from 2 years ago. Finally, we're going to get some justice. So I hope the momentum picks up because we need it.
Absolutely. And, we're going to hear about this monster, Michael Valva, Tommy Valva's father. He tried to cover this thing up right from the get-go. When the police responded, and we're going to listen to his 911 call, when he calls 911, he says that his son fell in the driveway while waiting for the school bus. And that, in fact, was not the case, because there is a Nest video camera that was placed strategically inside that garage for very particular reasons. They would leave those children alone and go out with the other kids to, say, dinners and dance. The girls were in a dance studio, and they would watch and monitor those kids when they were locked in that garage through that Nest camera. And thank God the Suffolk County Police, the homicide squad and the crime scene, they retrieved and took the Nest video camera footage. And Angela, as dumb as she was, she gave them permission. They didn't even get a search warrant. She just consented to it. And they tried to suppress it, Lisa, but they were unsuccessful at suppressing that. And we're going to hear from Joe Murray, the criminal defense attorney. He's going to be joining us on the second half of the show. And he's going to talk about evidence like that. And we're going to also talk about the criminal charges, because a lot of people are caught up that they are only both charged with murder in the second degree, and why not murder in the first degree? We got criminal defense attorney Joe Murray that's going to chime in. But I know that you have, you looked at some of the records from this, and this goes very deep. It goes to, police initial calling. The neighbors made calls about possible child neglect, and the school. There was many stuff. Yeah, I'm going to let you talk a little bit on that if you can.
Sure. Even Mom Justina, she in 2018 rather, she started a Twitter to start posting videos of interviews with her son to have a record somewhere of what was happening in the household and what dad was doing to the children. But this I thought was pretty poignant because the school made a report. And in that report, and I won't read it in detail, but what stands out is that Michael Valva and his fiance did not understand the depth of both Anthony and Thomas's disabilities. They had a recommendation that they needed some type of parenting courses. They talked about Anthony, who was presenting a lot more anxiety than Thomas, who was ultimately killed. But Anthony, they said, had a little bit more issues, and Thomas was diagnosed with autism, but Anthony had not been diagnosed at that point. But also what was really important is they were monitoring the children's weight. And they said Anthony lost 11 pounds from his last physical. He had grown in height and he should have been gaining weight. And the father's excuse was that he's a very active boy. And the other boy, then Thomas, gained 1 pound during that period from the last physical. God. Kids were constantly asking for food at school. The teacher even said she would bring food to them to give them extra food. Scavenging for food. They looked sickly. They didn't have appropriate clothes to wear during the winter months. So they were dressed scantily. And again, they spoke to the father and said, you need to give them more food. The children are always hungry. The father never listened to any of those demands. And they also asked the kids why they wouldn't go to the school nurse when they were sick. And they were told that Angela said, do not go to the nurse. So here they were embedding in these children that you better not talk to anybody about what's happening in the household. Don't go to the nurse. They were filthy, visible dirt on them. And the list goes on. And this was back in 2018. So this is 2 years before Thomas, unfortunately, was murdered.
Yeah. So there's a long laundry list of complaints that have been made by Justina. And here is her Twitter feed. And I scrolled all the way back to 2018. I'm going to put this full screen, Lisa, but the audience can still hear us talking. I just want to read January 9th of 2018. And don't forget, January of 2020, January 17th, little baby Tommy met his demise. He was killed by his father just a short time after she posted this. She said in this video, and I'm not going to play the video because it's heart-wrenching. In this video that was made after I picked up my children for visitation from their father's house, my son, 4 years old, is terrified and talks about being punished by the father and his girlfriend for coming to mommy. And then in her next one, it says, my children are taught enormous hatred towards me by their father, his girlfriend, and their daughter. Hashtag parental alienation. And this is January 10th, 2018. These are the videos that I was talking about, Lisa, with you that showed a lot of details. Look, it has 30,000 hits. And it's this was January 18th as well. Please help me and my 3 children, 2 whom have autism, receive justice, because I am extremely abused and discriminated because I come from another country, Poland. Please help my story get public, because my rights to defend myself and my children got taken away from me. This woman was screaming out for help on Twitter. She even tweeted Oprah Winfrey. She tweeted at Oprah Winfrey. This is a video. And I was to this apartment. This is Valley Stream. And this is the kids coming running to her. And this is publicly out there. This is not anything. And he's grabbing. This is Tommy. He grabs him by the arm here and won't let him go. And you could see the kid's trying to hit the father. He's trying to punch him. because he's been abused. He's been
Right.
abusing him for so long. This kid is like, wants to just get away from him. And look, the other one looks petrified. That's Anthony. So she videotaped this, and it's horrific to see it. I watched this such a while ago, but this was posted January 18th of 2018. Cop father forbids the children from coming to their mommy by painfully squeezing their hands and making them cry in order to prove that children do not want to come to me, to their mommy. The father of my kids is a cop who is allowed to abuse his children.
Absolutely right.
Police brutality. I'm gonna let this play because I think the audience needs to hear this. And again, it's publicly available. Can you hear this audio?
Go, baby.
Yes.
Hi, buddy. Hi, Andrew. Let him go. Hi, Andrew. Let them go. They can come to me. Let him go. Let him go. He wants to come here, Andrew. Let him go. What are you doing to them? Every single come here, baby. I got you. I got you. I got you.
I'll be back.
No, he's not crying that he's gonna be back. He's crying that you're restricting them. Okay, I got you. Quickly, let's go. Let's go, Tommy. Let's go.
So this
Pure
is
evil.
this
Just evil.
yeah.
And it's all control. You know what happens a lot of times after a divorce, and kids are used as pawns. And certainly he's got, over the top John Wayne syndrome, that he's in charge. He's using his police job and his career to kind of hang on to that power as much as he can. And it's so hard to watch.
Now that was January 18th. This fast forward to November 22nd of 2018. This is still her on her Twitter. Her next post. I don't even know if my children are still alive at this point.
Oh my God.
Please pray for my family and share this post with everyone to go viral and help my children receive justice. This is November 22nd of 2018. This is all on her Twitter. I will link it down below, and it says stand against child abuse. November again, 22nd. The Child Protective Services and courts are protecting the abusers of my children and swipe everything under the rug. I am heartbroken because my children are being purposely hidden from me and unlawfully. I am not being allowed to even see my children on Thanksgiving, November 22nd. And this is, she posts again on that same day a Thanksgiving wish, and these are just prayers and stuff. Just heart-wrenching. January 25th of 2020, she now knows what happened. I want to personally thank each and every one of you for the love and support towards me and my children. I am still extremely heartbroken and devastated over the cruel and tragic death of my little angel Thomas. That could have been preventable. Please continue to keep us in your prayers. And then she posts a picture of the three of them together. It's just,
good God,
just horrifying. And this is why it's important that we keep speaking about this case and make sure that justice is served. Michael Valva is an evil, sick monster. He does not deserve to see the light of day. And Angela Polina, no matter what, they're pointing the fingers at each other. They're the defense is pitting both of them at each other. He's going to say that she,
was the ringleader.
Right. And then he is going, and she's going to do the same thing. So, oh, look, Josh came in while we were live and said, I resolved. He said he wanted to make sure that it wasn't on my end, any of that echoing, but he came in. Thank you, Josh. Lisa, this again, like she said, Justina put in her Twitter feed that this was preventable because she was screaming from the rooftops for someone to help her, and nobody helped her.
And unfortunately, they're looking at what she did and what she posted, and being the squeaky wheel. We talk about that. When you want something, you're going to exhaust every avenue to get the result that you want. And here she was contacting police, contacting CPS, going on Twitter, posting videos. This woman was using everything she possibly could. She felt the kids were hidden from her. She didn't know where they were for some periods of time. And it looked like just the rantings of an insane woman. People just like dismissed what she was saying and didn't look at it as something that was valid because they didn't have the whole entirety of what was happening. So if you looked at Twitter alone, you made an assumption. Oh, this woman from another country, there was no credibility to her. And the assumptions were made that it was just rantings. And then CPS called over and over again. You said 33 times, at least 17 times between the schools. And it just did not all come together as it needed to. And again, what is wrong with our system, because it's just so broken.
Yeah. 33 calls to CPS. They were investigated and found unfounded, and they found no danger and no reason to remove the three boys from their custody. 3 judges in Nassau and Suffolk County, one Judge Zimmerman, another one Lawrence, and the third one recused himself from hearing any other cases, which was the right thing to do. But all 3 of these judges should be removed from the bench. I'm going to play a clip from court after one of the initial first court hearings, and Justina, just like the brave warrior that she is, came to the microphones with CBS, ABC, 1010 Wins, all of the news stations were there, and she held a press conference inside the court lobby. I want you to hear and listen to what this woman says. She cries, and this is heart-wrenching. I'm going to give you guys again. This is 5 minutes of really hard to listen to coverage, but she says, under no uncertain terms, where were you? You are all coming to my aid now, but where were you when I was screaming and crying for help? So let's let this play, Lisa, and I think this is important to show this, because this is an intricate part of this case, and people need to see this. So here's Justina.
I just want to say it was so extremely difficult to sit in the courtroom, listen to obviously all the facts related to my son Thomas's death. I just kept thinking about how much abuse all my children encounter from the hands of those 2 abusers, Michael and Angela, for years, day after day after day, being deprived from food, shelter, the basics, what every child should be provided with. I kept thinking about all the institutions who failed to help him, who completely did absolutely nothing. Now everybody's trying to do the right thing, but where were you when I begged you for help? When you could have saved my child's life? I did file a complaint with Suffolk County District Attorney's Office. I did file a complaint with Nassau County District Attorney's Office, FBI, Suffolk County Police, Nassau County Police, Attorney General. Nobody helped my children. There should be first-degree murder. I don't understand that there's a second-degree murder. They kept telling me that that's the highest they can go. No, you can go higher. You have to set up the standards. That case like that, all the children out there who are in similar situation, who are similarly abused, are gonna know that crime like that is punishable to the highest extent of the law, not to the second extent of the law. Thomas deserves much more than that. The justice needs to be served. Why all the people involved who knew about this enormous abuse, why they not in jail by now? Why they not being criminally charged? Dana McCabe, attorney for the children. Ethan Hartner, attorney for the children.
She's calling out all of the attorneys that were representative for the children in family court.
Right.
And she calls out, Lisa, and audience and everyone that's watching. She calls out the judges. She calls out the supervisors at CPS. Kudos to this woman, because
Yes.
she is standing there with court officers around her and like a dozen cameras in her face.
And she's
And-
not reading from a script. This is everything she's been doing for 2.5 years. And all the reports, all her efforts, it's all in the top of her head. She knows exactly what she did to
Yes.
try to get a result out of
And-
somebody.
And I've been to her home. I went to her house
my
because she lives close to me, and she has boxes. She showed me. She
Oh my
has boxes of paperwork that she has,
Oh,
and she shares some of it on Twitter. She scanned it and took pictures of it and posted the documents of all of the reports that she made. And she's got zip drives and little USB drives of all those videos and the abuse and the conversations. So this woman, like you said, this is coming from her heart. This is coming from her memory. I'm just going to let a little more of this play because she calls out everybody here. I'm going to back it up just a little bit.
Abuse, why they not in jail by now? Why they not being criminally charged? Dana McCabe, attorney for the children, Ethan Hartner, attorney for the children, knew about the abuse. Ethan Hartner is still on the case. Dana McCabe is still on the case. They still keep their jobs. What about the CPS case workers? Michelle Clark, Jennifer Lance, Melissa Estrada, Jean Manteau, everybody involved from Suffolk County, Child Protective Services, all the caseworkers who were involved, they still keep their jobs. They're not criminally charged. I don't understand that. And we're all paying money from our taxes. And they conduct all those criminal actions against the children. They all involved in murdering my child. All the judges, Judge Zimmerman, Lawrence, Bernard Cheng, they all should be in jail because you are a judge or you have a high power position. It doesn't mean you are above the law.
Amen.
yes.
My son stands. What happened to my son is a clear evidence of enormous corruption that's happening in the system. We're talking about a web of corruption between police, DA's office, CPS, attorneys for the children, all those institutions. People involved have Thomas's blood on their hands. And my children were sexually abused. They produced for child.
She said it so well there,
Goodness.
Lisa. They all have the blood of her son on their
Yes.
hands.
Yes.
Unbelievable. I'm going to let just a little bit more of this play because it's important. And everybody hears how strong of a woman Justina Zupko Valva is, a Polish immigrant, a New York City corrections officer. What most people don't know is that this woman, because her ex-husband was a New York City cop, she said, I'm going to show him, I'm taking the test, and I'm going to become a law enforcement. This is after they got divorced. She took the test, she passed, she went through the academy. She was a New York City corrections officer. So kudos to this woman and kudos to her for standing up to all these people. She does have a pending $200 million lawsuit against the Suffolk County Family Court. There's numerous people
Deserves
named.
every dime. Yes.
Yeah. Let me just let the rest of this play, and then we have Joe Murray. We're going to bring him in to talk about the criminal side of this.
Pornography. Why nobody is talking about it? There's so much evidence in this case. The father receiving thousands and thousands of dollars a month, 30 to 130,000 a month in deposits from unknown sources. Children's testimony. I already expressed the allegation of sexual abuse in 2016. I filed police reports. The specimen wasn't even tested, wasn't even sent to the lab because.
Yeah, I want to say something quick. I'm going to put us back on. She, in 2016, because she verbally told me this, and now she's saying it here. She said that in 2016, she saw evidence of sexual abuse to her boys. And they told her, that things were going on, and she was dismissed. And she said that they never tested the specimen. She cut their underpants out and gave it to the police, and they never tested it for anything. So
Horrible.
yeah,
It just keeps compounding and compounding of what happened to these poor children.
yeah.
And how she was dismissed.
It's insanity what has happened to Justina Zubko Valva at the hands of not just one agency. If this was the police or just say child welfare messing up, then I would say, you know what, let's go after them. You can't let them get away with this. But this is Nassau County Police, Suffolk County Police, the courts, the family courts in both counties, Nassau and Suffolk. The teachers at his school out in Suffolk County, they made numerous reports. I have it on another piece of paper, and we're going to get to it. They sent in numerous reports of the boys eating off the floor, eating in the garbage, out of the garbage can, and coming in underweight. The nurse, and it's funny because both Angela Polina and Michael Valva told the nurse, "Do not touch my kids." And if you tell them you don't want the kids to be examined, they won't examine them. But the nurse, at one point, one of the boys came in and had a stomach ache and went to the nurse, and she put him on a scale and she documented it. Thank God she did that.
Thank God.
She was able to tell that he lost 11 pounds in 1 year. Yeah.
The decline in his health. Incredible. Yeah. But that's a red flag right there. Don't touch the kids. That's another report of why is this father not wanting his children to have medical attention. These are all these notes that needed to take place, and it probably did. Yeah. But what was done with it after? That's the problem.
And that's the sad part, is because we hear from the police department and the Suffolk County executive, the county executive, Stephen Ballone, said we are going to do a top to bottom assessment on every person who had contact with this family. That hasn't been done.
Has it not been done, or has it just not been put out there? Because now that you mentioned the $200 million lawsuit, it makes me wonder if they're not permitted to release it to the public based on a lawsuit.
Well, once litigation's put in, and we're going to have Joe chime in. As soon as he gives me the thumbs up, I'm going to add him in. But when that happens, I do believe that, a lot of contact ceases at that point. But, she through Facebook Messenger, some of the folks who are supporting her, they reached out to me and asked. They went out to the Suffolk County Medical Examiner's office to ask for the cause and manner and the report of the autopsy of her son. And they were escorted off the property. 2 Suffolk County police officers came. It's on Facebook. It was a Facebook Live. 2 Suffolk County police officers came and told them they had to leave, that they were trespassing. It's public property, the last time I checked, outside the medical examiner's office. They weren't in. They were on the steps. Yeah. And they told this woman, who's just been through hell and back, to leave. You got to go. God. Sickening. I have so much here to go over. We could easily take up several hours on a stream, and we're going to do it in many different segments. This is day 2 of the trial. They split the trials, and that's what I'm going to bring in criminal defense attorney Joe Murray. Joe, if you give me the thumbs up, I'll add you in. Joe Murray, I know you're listening. Can we add you to the stream? It looks like he's putting a tie on. I don't know what he's doing, but okay. He gave me the thumbs up. Here he is, our good friend, criminal defense attorney Joe Murray, a former New York City police officer as well. He ran for Queens County District Attorney. Joe, I'm honored to have you here, and this is my great friend Lisa Lockwood.
Good to meet you, Joe.
How are you, Lisa? Nice to meet you. I just subscribed to your channel. I was so impressed.
Thank you.
Fantastic. Thank you for your service. It's incredible what you've done in your career.
I appreciate it. I'm looking forward to your input on all of this.
Thank you.
Joe, so I wanted to ask you quickly here.
Yes, sir.
We have a situation where you have you've seen what we're showing here. We have a mother who's been crying for help since 2016. Her son was murdered January 17th of 2020. She has been blasting all of the courts, all of the CPS workers, Nassau Police, Suffolk Police, on her public Twitter account, on her Facebook account, and she has been dismissed everywhere she's gone. As far as a Suffolk County family court judge told her to shut up in court.
You know, Ron, it's so shocking. And the three of us law enforcement officers, when I listened to her plea and all the people she was naming, we know they're all mandatory reporters. Yeah. Every one of them. Lawyers, DAs, cops, teachers, medical professionals, they're all mandatory reporters. And that's punishable by a criminal charge, a misdemeanor charge, failing to report reports of suspected child abuse and neglect. She's absolutely right. And she's gone to each one of these mandatory reporters. Maybe, as you pointed out, Ron, some of them did report, but they can't just file one report and leave it alone. Each and every time they witness some evidence of abuse or neglect or maltreatment, they are mandated. That's why they are mandated, because it's so important. These kids can't speak for themselves. Yeah. We need the people around them to speak for them. So yeah. I got to tell you, just listening to her plea, she's absolutely right. And I want to also bring up a point. When I heard about this $200 million lawsuit, and Lisa picked right up on it, like, where is this report of accountability? I really believe that a special prosecutor needs to be appointed from outside of Suffolk County, yes, because there are so many Suffolk County officials who are going to come under investigation. We can't have that conflict of interest with the Suffolk County District Attorney with a wink and a nod. I'm going to look past this, take care of my friends here. We need someone to be appointed to come from the outside of the county who can just weed through this and find the real culpable parties.
Yeah. And she was so vocal about these people are still on the case. They're supervisors. Nobody was reprimanded as that we know of. And these folks are
Ron, reprimanded? How about official misconduct?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, this has to be criminal.
I agree. I agree. I use the word reprimanded because that to me would be something to start with and then go to, how this whole process goes, Joe.
To further the investigation after that. I hear you.
Right. I want to play a little piece from CBS 2. This is about what we're speaking about. So let's take a listen into this, and then we'll get Joe back in to talk about some of these charges that both of these perpetrators are facing.
With some new information in the tragic death of a Long Island child.
8-year-old Thomas Valva died last month after police say he was forced to sleep in a cold garage overnight. His father, an NYPD officer, and his father's fiancée charged with his murder.
But now questions remain about systematic failures that led to his tragic death. CBS 2's Jennifer McLogan investigates.
Thomas Valva froze to death in his father's garage. It was no secret the 8-year-old had been suffering. CBS 2 obtained abuse complaint records and custody hearing transcripts.
Those judges seem like they just didn't care.
What about the caseworkers?
The CPS caseworkers also, they extremely responsible for what happened to Tommy.
2014 to 2019, 21 911 calls to Nassau Police from the couple's Valley Stream home.
And these calls to Nassau County Police are this is my police force, the 5th precinct where I live. There was 21 calls, and it was calls related to custody. But during those calls, and she was vocal about this on different social media outlets, and she actually said this verbally to me, that she suspected abuse and made those allegations to the responding cops and were dismissed. She was dismissed. They never took a report. So let's let the rest of this play.
Mostly visitation disputes. 2015, contentious divorce battle begins. Court transcripts 2017, judge admonishing the mother Justina, who is representing herself, desperately raising her hand. He has failed to pick up our children 29 times. Stop talking, says the judge. Attorney for the children. I believe it.
They were nice about that. That was, the judge told her to shut up on record. So here's the news, making it nice. She was told to shut up or be held in contempt of court.
Might be time for this court to make a change in custody. 29 times. Stop talking, says the judge. Attorney for the children. I believe it might be time for this court to make a change in custody. Mother attempts to provide flash drive of documented abuse. Children starving. Accusations of physical abuse.
Daddy said to me that I can't listen to you and can't hug you.
This is what we're listening to is a recording of Thomas Valva, little Tommy. Yeah.
That I can't listen to you and can't hug you. I love you, mommy. I miss you, mommy. Why? And then daddy's gonna pull me outside.
Judge appears to wave away flash drive. Not at this time. She's not complied with any order, says the judge, scolding Justina for failure to bring boys to court-appointed attorney and dragging her feet on doctor's evaluation. September 2017, judge awards temporary custody to the father. Order of protection issued against Justina without explanation or without being required an explanation.
They did not have any evidence against me, so they would have claimed that I have mental illness, or I am drinking, or I have erratic behavior.
Justina claims she was evaluated and cleared by her correction officer employer. And neuropsychologist Justina always puts needs of children at forefront. Still, the three sons moved in with NYPD father Michael Valva and fiancée Angela Polina. 2018 to 2019. 20 calls from East Moriches teachers to child protection hotlines. Missing school, black eye, lacerations, hungry, visible dirt on body, urine-soaked clothing. Father blamed this.
Why weren't those kids removed with those 20 allegations from the school?
Incredible.
This is an impartial outside source. This is coming from the teachers. Like Joe said, these people are mandated to report. You know, it's just sickening. I got to play it again so everybody can hear it.
Missing school, black eye, lacerations, hungry, visible dirt on body, urine-soaked clothing. Father blamed this on playground mishaps. The special ed teacher wrote, not allowed to eat breakfast because they did not use their manners. 5 Suffolk CPS caseworkers investigated the series of reports in 2019 and concluded did not rise to level of immediate or impending danger of serious harm. No controlling interventions are necessary at this time.
Judges and law guardians and CPS staff get a 10-minute window of opportunity to see what's going on in that kid's life and to make a decision that can be life or death.
The 3 judges from Nassau and Suffolk tell us since this is a pending criminal matter, it would be inappropriate to comment. One has recused himself from future proceedings. Social service agencies say there were court-ordered home supervisions and mandated positive parenting programs. On Long Island, Jennifer McLogan.
Horrific, guys. Joe, what's your take on that?
You know, I got to be honest, in all fairness, looking at that list that they provided, that alone, I mean, it gives you what we call like inquiry notice. You see a black eye. Wait a minute. I got to inquire at least and try to get an explanation, see what happened, maybe call the parents. But, you know, being dirty and stuff like that, I think that in and of itself would not trigger having to prepare a report, but certainly it would cause an inquiry, an investigation, monitoring, maybe calling home to see what's happening. So, you know, I just got to be fair looking at that. It's not, that list did not seem so shocking to me. And I'm thinking of myself when I was a kid. I had more black eyes because I was fighting in the schoolyard all the time, but it wasn't from, you know,
right.
You
But
know,
the problem was that was not the first time. That was from the school
absolutely.
itself. They had the mother who was jumping up and down since 2016 about abuse with the children, dismissed left and right, hence no record probably of it, where no one could go back and refer to, you know, former records. This woman was dismissed every which way that she turned. Everybody, like she said, they accused her of being mentally defective. Yeah. Lisa, I mean, listen, as a woman here, I feel like it's so important to get this perspective because, you know, she's a single mom. She was a single mom and had nobody behind her. And she sat and put her papers together, put all of her evidence together, and she was dismissed every which way she turned. She was pleading with Twitter Somebody
She was
help me.
knocking doors down, working as a correction officer, working full time, trying to get to the bottom of keeping her children safe. And you've been to her home, you've seen the files. We saw what she did on Twitter. She was unrelentless, nonstop. Somebody help, crying from the rooftops, and all of it failed. Every last bit of it.
Yeah.
From showing up, from a judge telling her to shut up, to showing up on the doorstep of the police department and then telling her to leave and to get off as if she's trespassing. She had just every single thing against her.
Yeah, it's just horrific. Hey, I want to address one comment here that somebody made. Yamaha biker with a little picture of John Wayne, it looks like. He says the badge unfortunately gave him protection / covered him. Joe, I don't think there's a better person here than to comment on that. Do you have a comment to that comment, Joe?
Yeah, I mean, we don't know enough about it. I mean, just the fact that he's a police officer. I mean, there's plenty of people who are horrific abusers that are not police officers. I don't think, essentially that was the cover. I'm sure he manipulated it in any way he could and used it as leverage. But, just to say that he was a police officer, that's why he was bad. I disagree with that.
Yeah, I think people are saying not that was why he was bad. They were saying that he was being favored by the police, by the courts. Now, I know because I used to deal with Suffolk County and Nassau. I was in the trip team. I'm actually wearing my NYPD trip team shirt, which I went around picking up prisoners from other jurisdictions. And as I can tell you from my own experience, we were not shown any favoritism by the corrections in Riverhead and in Yaphank. As a matter of fact, we would actually wait for hours to get our prisoners. So they didn't say, "Oh, NYPD's here, let's roll the red carpet out." I don't think that. I think that he might have had some influence on CPS by saying, "Hey, listen, I'm a New York City police officer. This lady's batshit crazy, and she's trying to come at me." He might have been a good conniver and a good narcissist kind of behavior where he can sell somebody a bag of goods. I don't know the man. I don't know anything about him. All I know is what I was told is that basically he painted this picture of that it was all Justina and it was not him and Angela. That all of this stuff was all created by her, and he painted her out to be a nut. And I think that in some of these circumstances, when she did not have any type of legal representation in all of these proceedings, Joe, as a criminal defense attorney, I know that you have a lot to say about that. And I feel that was a big mistake on her. She thought that she could fight the system on her own with her limited knowledge and things of that nature. And I think that might have had some outcome to this thing because she failed to get anything. You want to talk a little bit about that, Joe?
Yeah, it's really strange. I mean, I have to just let me qualify my last comment. I primarily practice in the city, and I can tell you police officers come under more scrutiny because they're cops than giving, the benefit of the doubt. I'm just telling you from firsthand experience. I've been divorced twice. I've had, child custody matters and stuff like that. I was automatically wrong and automatically it was just horrible. I don't know about Suffolk County as much. I think it's a little more perhaps even handed out there, or maybe the police officers get a better shot out there. I don't know. I don't practice out there. So just to address that, the issue of her not having legal counsel is shocking to me because that's what our family court is set up for. It's so user friendly. They will appoint on the 18B panel, they will appoint lawyers for everyone. She'll walk in there, she'll get an attorney. She just has to show her limited means and inability to afford an attorney. And they will appoint they'll appoint law guardians for the kids.
Yeah.
The kids will have their own lawyer.
Yeah, she talked about that. She talked about the kid's lawyer in that press conference.
Yeah, but so to say that she did not have an advocate, I find that strange. There has to be a reason for that because they give them out like they're hotcakes there. Nobody's deprived legal counsel in family
We
court.
did. And she also brought up in that press conference the fact that she was upset that Michael Valva ended up using an appointed lawyer versus hiring somebody, and says he's got the money, he's got the means to do that. It's an abuse, and our tax dollars are paying for it. So she's fully aware, that exists.
Right.
So I do find a hard time wrapping my head around what was the failure on her end, or the mistrust on her end, or what was it that she thought that she can achieve on her own.
Well, one of the things is, as an attorney, the attorney-client relationship, if there is a breakdown in the attorney-client relationship because she's so headstrong about my kids are so maybe the attorney, but she can apply for another attorney and say, this relationship is broken, I need another attorney.
I have another look on this, and I feel strongly about this. I feel that because she was turned away and dismissed by so many of the officials in not just family court, in divorce court, in family court, in the police departments, she had a Suffolk County police officer tell her if she calls them again, she's going to get arrested. So I think that she lost confidence in her mind with the system from starting in 2016 and having these battles, that when they offered her help, she was like, oh, fuck no, I'm not taking any help from these guys and girls. These are the people who's screwing me. I'm going to trust the system.
Right.
So this poor woman, in her mind, she was mind fucked. She was like, I'm not taking any help from these people. And I apologize for using this strong language, but this is how strongly I feel about this. I think that she was reluctant to take help because she wasn't trusting the system.
Yeah. That's more than likely what happened, because she knew the dire nature of the situation, and she probably was just so offended by
scared
the minimal offer of assistance that she was getting. And she's like, why aren't they arresting these people? Why aren't they removing the kids?
So when they offered her court-appointed help, she's like, oh, hell no. These are the people who are going at me.
She's butting heads with her lawyer, and the lawyer is saying, look, it takes time and this and that, that's all I can imagine. That you're right, because of the failures, she's butting heads and saying, no, I want this, I want that. And that causes the breakdown between the attorney and the client.
Yeah, Joe, 100%. Susan King, thank you for the $20 super chat. We greatly appreciate your support here. And again, listen, it looks like a lot of people in the chat. I might have hit a soft spot here. Joey Brooklyn, Black Rose, Dawn Marie, Kung Fu Panda, everybody's agreeing with that statement that I just made. And I think strongly about that, because I have been following this very closely. I look in the Facebook groups. I look at what Justina posts. I listen to what all of the people who are at court with her post. There's a couple of guys that go to every one of her court appearances with her, and they help her try to kind of understand the process now. And I think that she is spooked by the system. She was spooked by the system, and now she has a lot on her plate. I think that Joe, between you and I, she left this country. She went back to Poland. Her mother is a resident there. She left and went back to Poland with her kids.
I can't blame her.
Yeah.
Can't blame her.
It's just so sad to see that this can happen in America, and it's happening not just here in Nassau and Suffolk County. This is happening across the United States. There's stories like this that we can go on and on and on. We could do 24-hour live streams, 365 days a year. Suffolk PD did a news conference on the 24th when they arrested Michael Valva. I want to play just a little bit of this, Joe, because I know that we're used to seeing these things, but since this presser has happened, there's not been one peep out of Suffolk County Police Department. They did not do a follow-up. This was January 24th of 2020, and the police commissioner now she's not in place anymore. It's now Rodney, what's his name?
Harrison.
Yeah, so he came from the NYPD, and he's the police chief there now. I see Lisa has a special guest joining us. Who?
Sorry,
who's-
had to pick
who-
her up. She was demanding attention. This is Pinky, everybody.
Well, hey, Pinky's adorable. I got a couple of good shots of Pinky on a walk with Lisa the other day. That was great. Thank you for that. Follow the grain in your own wood. Sends in a $10 super chat and says raw for Thomas. Write the Inspector General demanding accountability. That's been done. That has been done. But thank you for the support there. Let me play the Suffolk County Police Commissioner's press conference. And this is old news, but I think everybody needs to hear. She talks in this presser about a head to toe review of every interaction. That's how she says it. I am going to overlook every interaction with this family. But I don't think that she did, because I asked Justina just about a year and a half, 2 years ago, if she heard anything from the district attorney or the police about any type of investigation, and she said they won't even answer my phone calls. Not shocking. Not
I would
surprising.
just demand this special prosecutor. The provision is there. It's section 701 of the county law. I actually filed an action against the Queens DA to try to get her removed and a special district attorney appointed there. It needs to be done, because this lawsuit, the county is circling the wagons. And
Right.
think about it. It's 2 years later. What's the statute of limitations on a misdemeanor?
Right.
2 years.
Yeah.
So nobody's getting prosecuted for at least misdemeanor charges. It's shocking.
There's not one person who had interactions with Thomas, with Anthony, with this entire family. Don't forget there was 3 girls that were untouched. They were not subject to any of this. And Andrew, who is not autistic, was able to live in the home's heated space. Thomas and Anthony, they were 3 years, arguably 3 years. That's 3 winters in New York, living in a garage and in a tent outside of the house. Anthony C. Wait, hold on a second. Thank you for the super chat. Is there a potential conflict if he was already being represented by a lawyer from an assistance agency? There was, and then they rectified it, and they took care of it. Everything. The trial is in day 2. He is being tried separately from the co-defendant, which is was his ex-fiancee, Angela Polina. Joe and I and Lisa, we're going to get into that. I just want to play this little clip for you guys so you can hear the Suffolk County Police Commissioner.
The County Police Commissioner,
This audio is kind of low,
she is
so
joined by First Deputy Commissioner James Skopek,
I got to get my other earbud because I can't even hear it.
Detectives Gerard Gigante, Deputy Chief of Detectives Matthew Lewis, Homicide Squad's Commanding Officer Detective Lieutenant Kevin Byer, and Homicide Squad Detective Sergeant Stephen Geyer. At the end of the press conference, we will take a few questions, but please remember this is an active investigation and there's certain information we're not going to be able to discuss. Thank you. Commissioner?
Thank you, Dawn.
This is Suffolk County Police Commissioner.
Good afternoon. Before we begin, I want to express my sincerest condolences to Thomas Valva's family and friends, especially his siblings. We are here to discuss the arrests of Michael Valva and Angela Polina for the death of Michael's 8-year-old son, Thomas. The couple has been charged with murder in the 2nd degree because they engaged in conduct which created a grave risk of death to this child. Thomas Valva was subjected to freezing temperatures in the home's unheated garage overnight when the outside temperature was 19 degrees. We first responded to 11 Bittersweet Lane in Center Moriches on January the 17th at 9:40 a.m. after Michael Valva reported that his son Thomas fell in the driveway while waiting for the school bus an hour earlier. Michael indicated that his son lost consciousness after the fall, but has remained unconscious. When the officers arrived, Michael Valva was performing CPR on his son in the basement. Thomas was transported to Long Island Community Hospital, where he was pronounced dead. At At the time of his arrival at the hospital, Thomas's body temperature was 76 degrees. As with any unattended death, homicide detectives conducted an investigation which revealed inconsistencies in the timing and the nature of the child's injuries as reported by his father. We have determined Thomas was never in the driveway that morning, and he suffered head and facial injuries that were not consistent with the father's account. During the past week, homicide detectives conducted a round-the-clock investigation, which included the review of video and audio recordings captured on the family's home surveillance system, both inside and outside the house. The recordings show the pair was closely monitoring the activities and conversations of their 6 children, Michael's 3 sons, ages 6, 8, and 10, and Angela's daughters, 11-year-old twins and a 6-year-old. We believe that the 10 and 8-year-old boys were subjected to punishment, including food deprivation and exposure to extremely frigid temperatures. We are still investigating the extent of the abuse and if it extended to all the children. Following Thomas's death, the department notified Suffolk County CPS and assisted in the emergency removal of the other 5 children on January the 17th.
Too late.
The children are currently in a safe environment. These arrests are not the end of the investigation. We are still processing evidence and conducting interviews. This case has hit our department hard, even the most seasoned detectives. I would like to thank our homicide squad for their countless hours in seeking justice for this little boy. I would also like to acknowledge and thank all the agencies that assisted us in this investigation: the New York City Police Department, the East Mauritius School District, the FBI, the Department of Social Services, the Medical Examiner, and the District Attorney's Office. I'll take any questions that you might have. So the medical examiner has ruled it a homicide with a major contributing factor of hypothermia. Just one at a time. So it's under investigation, but we believe certainly that Thomas was kept in the garage overnight preceding his death. That's under further investigation. So the father was, as I said, conducting CPR on the child in the basement of the house. The garage that I'm referring to is attached to the house. It is unheated and unfinished.
All right, I'm going to save us all this nonsense. Basically, Lisa, let me just unmute you. Basically, she goes on to say that they're going to do a top-to-bottom review of every interaction that happened with Thomas and with this family. And again, it's a little too late for that at this point, but her and the Suffolk County county executive both said the same things, and I have both of them on tape and on film talking about this, and again, nothing got done. Joe, I want to talk to you quickly because we only have a couple more minutes. There's a lot of people who are chiming and are pissed off. There's a lot of people in the chat. This comment right here, Anthony C. He is a strong advocate for Justina and the family. He's talking about John Loturco. He's representing. It was reported in family court last week to have been seen at the school in 2019 and potentially at the scene before the incident of Thomas's death. So there's a lot of people that are looking at a lot of different things here. But mostly people are so pissed off that these two are not facing murder in the first degree. Joe, I know you look at the statute here in New York. Why does the district attorney charge the lesser charge and not murder first degree, in your opinion?
You know, I have a lot of questions about the way this case is proceeding and how they charged it. The district attorney has the burden of proof beyond a reasonable doubt. Now, if you look at the first degree murder statute, the only one that really fits, and I have it here, we talked about it, is subdivision 1X. Now, naturally, first degree murder contains the ordinary elements: intend to cause the death and do cause the death of another person or third person. And then subdivision 1X it reads, the defendant acted in a specially cruel and wanton manner pursuant to a course of conduct intended to inflict and inflicting torture upon the victim prior to the victim's death. As used in this subparagraph, torture, in quotes, means the intentional and depraved infliction of extreme physical pain. Depraved means the defendant relished the infliction of extreme physical pain upon the victim, evidencing debasement or perversion, or that the defendant evinced a sense of pleasure in the infliction of extreme physical pain. That's a very, very high bar. I'm not saying that they don't have evidence of that, but I don't know if they made a decision that, okay, you know what, first degree murder, the only difference in penalty is the possibility of life without parole, whereas second degree, he could get, you know, a possible life sentence. But this sounds like a lot of elements that meet a very, very high standard. I'm not saying it didn't happen, but all I've heard so far, and I really am just learning about this. I know we talked about it years ago, but then it's come to light recently. I don't think there were physical attacks, burns, things of that nature. He was put in the garage. I'm not minimizing what happened, but when you read this language and it talks about inflicting torture, when I hear torture, like somebody is being burnt, in constant agony.
Well, wouldn't be kids being, wouldn't children being kept in 19 degrees Fahrenheit temperature be considered torture? And this is not the first time, because it was said that on the Nest video camera, a day and a half before Thomas died, he was in the garage, face in the camera, pleading and begging to come inside to use the bathroom and to get warm. I feel, that constitutes torture. And he joked with Angela by text message and she said, he's falling on his face and he's soiling himself. And he said, that's his problem, not mine, and laughed about it.
Yeah. So the depravity with that leading up to it, you are exactly right, because any person, I don't care what part of the earth you come from, knows that you cannot survive in 19 degrees for an extended period of time. And one of the things that did come forward is the fact that the defense attorney said there was a heater in the garage, but it wasn't plugged in and the door was not locked, meaning that the child could have went into the house. These are children with disorders and autism and anxiety, and fear has been beat into them. So they know they can't come into that house without permission or being asked to, because of the torture that would happen once they entered that door.
Yeah.
I agree with you 100%, but you have to understand, a prosecutor, after a thorough investigation, knows the weaknesses of their case. I don't know what they are. I'm sure we're going to find out during this trial. But let me just read the murder 2 charge. That was murder in the first degree. The murder 2 charge under subdivision 4 is under circumstances evincing a depraved indifference to human life and being 18 years old or more, the defendant recklessly engages in conduct which creates a grave risk of serious physical injury or death to another person less than 11 years old, and thereby causes the death of such person. So the depravity is still an element. It's just not as high an element as the first degree. And like I said, we don't know what the investigation revealed, and we don't know what weaknesses the district attorney's office may have that could have come into play in their charging decision. But, as I look at this, this trial, see, here's one of the questions I have. Why, usually a district attorney, they want the cases to be tried together because they're using the same witnesses essentially for each case. But because of the conflict that exists, the antagonizing defense, they're finger pointing. He did it, she did it. So they're allowed to sever the case and try them separately. As a district attorney, which case would you want to try first? Now, what comes to my mind is I want to try the harder case first. Why do I want that? Because the person who goes second gets all the transcripts. They get all the cops' testimony. They get all the experts, the forensics. They get it all handed to them.
So are you saying that Michael Valva's case you feel is the harder case to prove?
No, that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying it defies logic. These are my questions. Why are they doing him first?
Yeah.
Is he the harder one, or is he the more culpable one? And they want to make sure they get him, or maybe there are some defenses that they don't want him to see these transcripts.
Yeah,
So
and this trial is not being televised. For those, a lot of people have been asking that. It's not televised. It's not open to public. There's reporters that are embedded. It's day 2. On the stand today, they brought in the EMS. It was a female EMS personnel who performed CPR, and she gave testimony that Michael Valva showed no emotions, 0 emotions. He stood back and was a matter of fact. She said he exhibited no emotions, did not cry, did not do the standard things that a parent would do if their child was not breathing. He did not demand that they do more. He was not hovering over them. He just sat back and was a matter of fact.
So that raises another question. Why are they doing a jury trial? Because a case like this of this young innocent kid, it's going to inflame the jury. Can you imagine any person not finding him guilty? Whereas a judge can look past some of that and look at the evidence. And when I say that, not to acquit him, but I'm sure they're going to ask for lesser included offenses that are not as severe. And I'll just hear me out. I know you guys are going to scream, but let's just talk about the lesser included offense of 2nd-degree murder. It's manslaughter in the 1st degree. Here's manslaughter in the 1st degree, being 18 years old or more, and with the intent to cause a physical injury, which, a physical injury is so minor. It's the complaint of pain is a physical injury. So the intent to cause a physical injury to a person less than 11 years old, the defendant recklessly engages in conduct which creates a grave risk of serious physical injury to such person and thereby causes the death of such person. So I don't know if the weaknesses or strengths of this defense, but perhaps there's something in here that he's looking to hang his hat on to try to make this, it wasn't intending the death. We were doing this recklessly and horrifically, but it wasn't intending death, but death resulted, and that's manslaughter. Now that's dangerous because manslaughter is a B felony, and the range of sentencing is anywhere from 5 to 25 years. That's scary that someone can get out with a sentence, somewhere between 5 and 25.
It's insanity. And I think the only defense that they would have on his behalf is, I put him out in 19-degree before and he survived. And I have proof of that on my Nest camera. So,
he's not even going to say that. He's going to say they have proof of it.
Yeah.
This
kid survived in 19 degrees last winter, and I had him out there for an hour and a half, but this time he succumbed. So I didn't expect he would succumb this time around. I mean,
please understand, I'm not trying to create a defense for him. I'm just trying to show you that.
Understood. You need that.
Here's the further horror story. Manslaughter 2, which is a C felony, penalty of 3 to 15 years. Manslaughter 2 says he recklessly caused the death of another person. That theory fits this scenario. A jury, if whatever the weak spot that he hopes to exploit to show that I never intended to kill my son, that's horrific. How could you think that? But I did recklessly kill him. That is right there. Yeah. And I don't even want to go to criminally negligent homicide, which is an E felony, and he can get probation for. So this is the scary part here. The fact that they didn't charge first degree tells me there is some weakness here. The fact that he didn't go bench and he's letting this go to a jury means he's going to exploit some kind of weakness here that we don't yet know about. That's my fear.
Or could it be that they are looking to not charge the highest charge because there's, like you said, there's more burden of proof and there's more things that they have to, beyond a reasonable doubt, prove to this jury, where they go for this second-degree murder and they feel like it's a slam dunk for them, and it's going to put them. The judge is going to ultimately put the sentence out, right?
Yeah.
Or
20
right
to life, he could get it.
So, and if the judge institutes the maximum sentence, he's going to be in jail for life. And that's the way it was put, when you and I spoke about it just 2 years ago. And I feel that a lot of people just feel like this is such a heinous crime. This is such a horrific, heartless, evil, demonic death that he deserves the top charge. I want to just play. It's a 2-minute clip, and then we're going to wrap it up because Lisa's got the dog in her lap, and she's probably needs to have dinner. She probably needs to have dinner, So poor Lisa. Yeah, the dog is like, "Mommy, come on, let's move this show along." This is from court. This is Michael Valva yesterday, not day 2, day 1, and this is Luterco. A lot of people hate this guy. Joe, criminal defense attorneys sometimes are the most hated people on the earth.
Of course.
When you look at these cases, but we love you, Joe. So don't take any offense. Here's from day 1, and we're going to listen closely because they're going to talk about their strategy in defending this monster.
8, 16, 19, and 76.1. Those are the numbers the prosecutor in the trial of Michael Valva urged jurors to keep in mind. 8, Thomas Valva's age. 16, the number of hours he allegedly spent in an unheated garage before he died. 19, as in degrees, how cold it had been outside. And 76.1, Thomas's body temperature the day he died. Ex-NYPD officer Michael Valva is charged with murder in the death of his son. During opening statements Wednesday, the prosecutor told jurors that Thomas and his brother Anthony, both autistic, would eat crumbs off the floor at school and take half-eaten food from the garbage. Valva's ex-fiancée Angela Polina, who's standing trial separately, is also charged with murder in Thomas's death. In a text exchange with Polina, Valva allegedly said, "I will beat them until they bleed. It's the only thing that works." The defense said that Thomas and his brother would wet and soil themselves and that the boys' incontinence was Polina's trigger. Prosecutors said the boys were toilet trained, but when they began living with Polina and Valva, they regressed. The defense alleges it was Polina who demanded the boys be put in the garage and that Valva at first refused but gave in when he was faced with being kicked out of the house with his kids. Prosecutors said the boys were denied access to the bathroom. The defense contends Valva at first brought items to the garage, like blankets and a mattress, but when the boys continued to wet and soil themselves, Polina removed those items, telling Valva he was making it too comfortable for them.
Michael never, ever thought that either of his boys could die.
Bullshit.
In that garage. And to prove this case and to find a conviction for this particular murder charge, the government is going to have to prove that he didn't care whether his kids lived or died. That's what depravity means.
Leaving them in the garage with 19 degrees temperature and stating, "I'll beat them until they bleed." I mean, those are slam dunks. I mean, guys, Lisa, what thoughts?
And yes, and video and audio recording of him putting his hand around Thomas's entire face and mouth, and Angela asking, "What are you doing?" "I'm suffocating him." "What do you think I'm doing?" You know, the list goes on with the video footage, with the audio, what was heard, what was said, what took place in that house. Even the nanny talked about the abuse. The nanny actually did say that Angela was the ringleader in it.
Right.
And now we're looking at the finger pointing and what's possibly happening. He was going to be kicked out and lose his fiance if he gave the kids blankets and pillows in the garage. So
Bullshit.
Yeah.
Amanda Wildman was the nanny, and she was on Dr. Oz, I believe it was. Yeah, Dr. Oz. And she made those statements in 2020. Joe, as a criminal defense attorney, you just saw, and we know that they tried to suppress the Nest video camera evidence. It was denied. Reason for looking to suppress that is extreme guilt, no?
Oh no, the reason to suppress it is, you know, that this may be evidence that was obtained legally in violation of constitutional rights. You know,
You mean illegally? They were saying that illegal. They didn't get a search warrant for it. She
did I say
consented
legally?
it.
I meant illegally.
Right. She consented verbally to handing that over. The Laturco said that they should have obtained a search warrant, but that would have given these perpetrators time to delete all the stuff. And there was on Fakebook, I call it Fakebook because you get fake stuff from there. On Fakebook, there was rumors during when this was all going down that botched up the Nest footage that they deleted or got rid of, or they were trying to cover up. We know now that the trial's starting that's not true. They have the Nest footage. They have Thomas face planting. They have Thomas up in front of the camera pleading for his life and saying, "Please let me in. I got to come in. I need to use the bathroom." The jury's going to see that. It's going to be heart-wrenching. It's going to be heart-wrenching.
Which brings me back to the question, why not go bench? Why are you risking this in front of a jury? Of course, you got to know your judge. So if you're in front of a hang-em judge, you're never going to go bench. Any jury is better than this judge. I don't know the judge. I'm just saying they may have been faced with that scenario. But a case like this, I don't know how many people are going to be very sympathetic, although the language, the distinction between the charges is not, it's ever so slight. And a jury may be able to be convinced, I didn't try to kill my son.
Yeah.
I you know, and then he can lay out all his evidence about plans for the future and why would I want to kill my son, and then end up getting convicted of the lesser included offense rather than the top charge.
Right. Yeah, no, 100%, Joe. And let me just leave that. Pauline Rabb, thank you for putting that up. Joe Murray is just telling us the law. It's not his personal opinion. You know, I'm encouraging nobody to go and attack Joe Murray based on what he's saying here. I'm telling you that he has volunteered his time to explain to us the procedures in court. Joe has been in court on cases. He's a criminal defense attorney. So I thank you for, giving us both sides of this thing. And
I certainly got educated with the difference between the two and the provability of it. It does make sense now to go for second degree.
Let me just give you a quick story that will just explain it and illustrate it. I had a gun case. It was my client who was driving the car, and there was a passenger. The police stopped the car because there was a headlight out. And as they approached my client on the driver's side, he sees the butt of a gun underneath the front seat. As he takes him out of the car and reaches for it, he sees two guns under the front driver's side seat of the car. Now, obviously, we moved to sever the case and we went to trial. So the district attorney is like, well, both guns were under Joe's client's seat. The harder case is going to be to prove possession of the firearm by the guy in the passenger side to see if we can prove that, he had knowledge and possession, control of one of those guns. So they tried him first, made a very big mistake. because then I got all the transcripts.
Wow.
I was ready for them. And I got I got these cops and I walked them through it. And I was able to show this jury and raise doubt that he picked this guy up on the street, didn't know him. And then the officer testified during the suppression hearing, as he was approaching the car, I asked him, I said, where was my client looking? Was he looking at you in the side view mirror? He goes, yes. What was the passenger doing? He goes, the passenger was fiddling around at his feet.
Oh, excellent.
So I already had that in the transcript. And then the other defense attorney, harped on that during the trial. My jury was like, this guy put both guns under his seat to try to get my guy in trouble.
Right.
And we won the case.
Wow.
But do you see what I mean? Like, they looked at the two and said, which one is going to be the tougher one? The passenger. Let's do him first, because the second one gets all the transcripts.
Right.
That's what I'm worried about with this case.
Yeah. Well, I'm keeping my fingers crossed. They're talking about 3 weeks. Now, that's a long time for a trial like this. That means that they have a substantial amount of evidence. If this trial is going to last for 3 weeks, there is a treasure trove of evidence, and the district attorney is, are going to have a field day here. I feel that, there's going to be a guilty verdict on, there's not just that one charge. There's other charges in the indictment. Let me read to you a little bit about day 2 today, because then we're going to wrap it up. Ex-cop Michael Valva showed no emotion, says the emergency service workers who fought to revive his dying 8-year-old autistic son inside his Long Island home. The paramedic testified Thursday, that's today, at the disgraced officer's murder trial. He had zero emotion, none whatsoever. No sense of concern, says paramedic Erin Lambert. She told the jurors in a Riverhead courtroom, saying that Valva kind of stood in the background the entire time. There was no crying. There was no emotion. Most parents in this situation, Lambert said, freak out in a situation like this. And there was nothing of that sort. Most of the time, parents are screaming, crying, jumping on us, begging us, please, please save my child. This ex-cop did nothing. The ex-cop stood stone cold, stone-faced at the foot of his son's bed at Long Island Community Hospital later when the boy was pronounced dead. Thomas Valva, 10:28 a.m., January 17th, 2020. The EMT, the paramedic and EMT that responded, they were there, and they said there were zero tears, no emotion. The paramedic testified somebody at the staff, from the staff in the hospital, came in the room and gave their condolence and asked if there was anything he needed, a drink, a chair, does he need to make a phone call? He turned to that staff member and said, hey, I've been through much more stressful situations than this. Are you fucking kidding me right now? That's what he said to them. I don't need a chair. I don't need a phone. I don't need a drink. I've been through worse.
Oh, what a big man. Wow.
So that's what we're looking at. That's day 2. We covered day 1 yesterday. Day 1 was just opening from the defense, from the prosecution first, and then the defense. And we're gonna stick with this. Joe has committed to helping us out with this, and I appreciate you. When there is something to talk about, either chiming in or calling in or whatever you can do. I know you're a busy man. Yeah, helping out with Bill and doing all kinds of stuff. But listen, Joe Murray, criminal defense attorney, his practice is on my website, DutyRon.com. And I want to just say special thank you to Lisa Lockwood for coming on for over an hour and 30 minutes.
Lisa, wonderful.
Lisa has a her own YouTube channel. I'll link that down below. All of her social media. She's on Instagram and Facebook, I believe. Lisa? No, just Instagram.
Facebook and Twitter.
Okay, Facebook and Twitter. So check out her stuff. I'll link it all down below.
Thanks, DutyRon.
Yeah, no. Thank you. It's always a pleasure to have both of you guys on here. And
seeing her intro, I was like, oh my God. You know,
She's a
who is
badass.
this
She's a
woman?
badass, Lisa Lockwood. But this case again is near and dear to my heart because I went out for the justice walk for Thomas Valva. I was out there March 1st, 2020. In 17 days, the city was shut down and COVID and all of the things that transpired prior to this. We were out there with Diane, Joe, Diane B, my neighbor. We were there with 400 people walking for justice for Thomas. And they unveiled a tree and a bench in the park over there in Valley Stream where he played as a little boy. And this thing is this is in my backyard. This is happened on my home turf in my area here where
Agency you're familiar with.
Yeah, the Nassau and Suffolk Police. I dealt with them extensively. My police department, my precinct, that if I called 911 now, responded to their home when they were having the marital disputes and the custody disputes. So it's a shame all around, and failures tremendous. I'm going to stick with this. Ed Wallace and I are going to cover the crime scene investigation on our next live. We're going to talk about evidence collection, what they did in this case, what they had to do to help with all the evidence. But I want to say thank you to the live chatters. You guys are awesome. Listen, Jennifer Nobles from Bakersfield, California, she is ground zero for Orrin and Orson West, Sincere and Classic. And Black Rose is a great moderator. Follow the Grain in Your Wood. There's so many people here. Dawn Marie, she's the best. She does a great job for us on all the moderation. I want to give thanks and praise to the replay viewers and everybody who gives this video a thumbs up and shares. It's important to share it because the message that we talk about here tonight, it gets out there. If you put it onto your social media, I don't care how big or small your account is, if you share it, you get Thomas's name out there. And that's what we want to do. We want to keep his name out in the public and get everybody to be aware of what is happening here and hold these people accountable for all of the injustice that has been done in this case and to many other children, people that are out there. So guys, I'm going to wish everybody a good night. Lisa, any final words?
Thank you. You're exactly right, because it's still happening in this country where they need to be checked, and Child Protective Services, all of these things have to have some type of accountability because it's still happening right now. So yeah, share the message. And again, thank you everybody listening, and thank you for having me on your show. And it's such a pleasure to meet you too, Joe.
Same here. Thank you.
All
So,
right.
Ron, let me just say one thing, just to leave everyone with. We need a special prosecutor here, a special district attorney. The law affords for it when there's a conflict of interest. They're allowed to bring in someone from the outside to look at what happened here. And we need this entire Suffolk County network of failures to be properly investigated and accountability for what the failures.
Mm-hmm.
The Attorney General is not even capable because a lot of these are state agencies, and the Attorney General defends state agencies. So we need that special prosecutor. Last thing, you got to go to Lisa's website. I'm telling you, after you leave here, go there. You're going to be blown away.
100%. I can't overemphasize that enough. And subscribe to her YouTube channel and all of her. You check everything out. I have it all linked in the description. All right, Lisa, Joe, guys, as I always like to end these things, God bless the world. God bless the United States of America. And God bless each and every one of us here in the chat, but especially the victims and their families. They need us now more than ever. Let's send them strength, prayers, and positive vibes. Thank you all for joining from California, New York, Joe and I, Lisa in California. We wish you guys a good night. Peace, guys. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.